This very moment, the enemy of your soul is whispering doubts, trying to choke out the hope that God himself has planted in your heart. You look at the mountain ahead, and all you can see are the impossible slopes and the sheer impossibility of the climb. You look at the valley you are in, and all you feel is the crushing weight of disappointment, sorrow, and confusion. You've prayed, you've waited, you've tried to be strong, and yet the breakthrough hasn't come. You are weary, and the temptation is so strong to simply lay down your shield, turn your back, and say, I can't go on. But I tell you today, with the conviction of the living God, don't lose faith now. The battle you are fighting is not just yours. It is the Lord's, and he has not abandoned the field. The silence you hear is not the sound of his absence. It is the deep, steady rhythm of his work. God is not bound by your timetable or your ability to see the path. Just as the acorn must be buried in the darkness to become a mighty oak, your current trial, your hidden suffering, and your unanswered prayer are not wasted time. They are the fertile ground where God is performing his deepest, most marvelous work. Behind the scenes, when your eyes are blinded by tears and your understanding fails, he is moving people, changing circumstances, and aligning events that will bring about his perfect will for your life. He is weaving the threads of your sorrow into a tapestry of strength and witness that will one day encourage thousands. He has a plan, and it is a good plan. He hasn't forgotten the promise he made to you. The darkness is just the prelude to the dawn. Hold on to the unwavering truth that the same power that raised Christ from the dead is working in your situation right now. Lift up your head, straighten your shoulders, and declare by faith that the victory is already yours in Christ. Your future is secured not by your effort, but by his grace. Keep believing. The initial, often paralyzing feeling of discouragement is the most crucial point where the human spirit begins to fail, and it is precisely where the message of enduring faith must take hold. When the burden feels too heavy and the way forward appears completely blocked, what you are experiencing is not just a natural reaction to hard circumstances. It is a calculated spiritual assault on your hope. The scripture tells us that our adversary prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour, and he primarily attacks not our physical body, but the very core of our belief, the trust we place in a sovereign God. This is the moment when the enemy of your soul goes to work, subtly but persistently. He doesn't necessarily need to convince you that God is evil, only that he is irrelevant, uncaring, or powerless to change your specific situation. He takes the concrete reality of your unpaid bills, your chronic illness, the rift in your family, or the sudden loss of a job, and he magnifies it until it casts a complete shadow over the promises of God. He whispers, look at the evidence. You've prayed for weeks, months, even years. If God cared, wouldn't things be different by now? Your effort has been for nothing. Your faith is foolish. Give up. It's impossible. The human mind, when facing prolonged suffering or intractable problems, naturally defaults to doubt because doubt is often easier than sustained hope. Doubt is a form of emotional resignation. It allows you to stop fighting and simply accept the worst outcome. But the life of faith demands an intentional, persistent, and often painful choice to reject that immediate, comfortable resignation. It requires you to look straight at the mountain, the looming impossibility, and declare, based not on what your senses perceive, but on the unchangeable character of God, though he slay me, yet will I trust him. This rejection of the whisper is the spiritual shield that protects your heart. It means recognizing that the feeling of impossibility is not a statement of fact, but a tactic of spiritual warfare. When that feeling of hopelessness surges, you must identify it for what it is, a lie, and counter it immediately with the truth of Scripture. You must recall the testimonies of the past, both in the Bible and in your own life, where God intervened when all hope seemed lost. You must hold on to the conviction that while the trial is real, the whisper that tries to destroy your faith is designed only to choke the life out of the seed God has planted. To reject the whisper is to actively choose to stand your ground. It is the spiritual equivalent of digging your heels in when the current tries to sweep you away. It is saying, I may not understand the reasons for this pain, and I certainly cannot see the way out, but I know the character of the one who holds the keys to my future, and I will not allow my current circumstances to redefine his faithfulness. This decision, made in the trenches of despair, is the foundation of enduring faith. for it moves you from a passive victim of circumstances to an active participant in the spiritual battle, armed with the unwavering belief that God's power is always greater than the problem you face. You must not yield to the pressure. The fight is not over. Don't give the enemy the satisfaction of turning back now. The most difficult test of faith is often not the severity of the trial itself, but the agonizing duration of the waiting period. When we cry out to God from the depths of our struggle, our human expectation is for an immediate, visible response, a sudden miracle, a dramatic shift in circumstances, or at the very least, a clear signpost directing us to the next step. Instead, we are frequently met with a profound, disorienting silence. It is this perceived stillness, this seeming vacuum where God's voice and intervention ought to be, that most deeply erodes our resolve. The temptation then becomes to equate the silence with absence, to mistake the lack of immediate action for a lack of care, or even a lack of power. But this interpretation is a fundamental error born of our limited temporal perspective. The truth is that the silence you hear is not the sound of abandonment. It is the deep, steady rhythm of God's deliberate work. Think of the master craftsman who appears inactive while his materials are curing, or the farmer who waits months after planting, knowing that the most crucial life-giving growth is happening unseen beneath the soil. God operates in a realm far deeper than our surface-level requests and immediate desires. His work is often tectonic, a powerful, slow-moving process that involves shifting foundations, preparing hearts, and precisely aligning countless variables that we cannot even perceive. If God were to answer your prayer instantly, the result might fulfill your immediate need, but it might bypass the crucial transformation He desires to accomplish in you. The waiting period, the silence, is often the necessary time of refining. It is during this season of quiet perseverance that self-reliance is broken, character is forged, and the depth of your dependence on Him is revealed. God is not merely concerned with fixing your problem. He is concerned with perfecting your soul and equipping you for the destiny He has prepared. This profound work cannot be rushed. Furthermore, the silent period is a time of complex, behind-the-scenes activity. Imagine the intricate moving parts of a massive clock mechanism. A viewer only sees the smooth movement of the minute hand, but beneath the face, hundreds of gears are engaging, springs are tightening, and components are aligning. When you are waiting, God is often working on other people involved in your situation, softening their hearts, preparing them for a necessary action, or maneuvering them into position. He is working on the circumstances of the world, perhaps waiting for the precise political, economic, or relational moment for His intervention to have the maximum lasting effect, not just for you, but for His kingdom's purpose. Therefore, do not let the quietness alarm you. It is the hallmark of divine purpose. The silence is evidence that the work is too big, too complex, and too foundational to be accomplished in a hurry. Hold fast to the unwavering certainty that the God who spoke the universe into existence does not slumber or sleep. He is actively present, and the very stillness you feel is the sound of Him orchestrating the perfect moment for His glorious manifestation. The deep rhythm is working even when you cannot hear the tune. When we confront intense suffering, be it the nagging pain of a chronic condition, the devastating loss of a loved one, or the crushing weight of a failure that seems irreversible, the natural inclination is to view that trial as a punishment, a curse, or simply a senseless waste. We cry out, "Why me? What purpose can this agony possibly serve?" We want to escape the pain, believing that relief and comfort are the highest forms of divine blessing. Yet, the profound truth revealed through the experience of faith is that these painful seasons, these moments of deep trial, are not sterile or pointless voids. They are, in fact, the most fertile ground for spiritual growth and divine action. The analogy of the seed buried in the earth is perfect here. For a seed to fulfill its destiny and become a mighty plant, it must first be covered in darkness, subjected to pressure, and undergo a process that, from its perspective, must feel like death. It is in the unseen, damp, and cold environment that the shell breaks, the protective layers fall away, and the essential transformation, the germination, begins. Similarly, our hidden suffering, the secret tears we cry, and the unanswered prayers that feel buried beneath the weight of reality are precisely where God initiates his deepest and most marvelous work within us. God is not concerned with simply keeping us comfortable. He is committed to making us complete. Comfort rarely produces depth. It is pressure that brings out the oil and fire that refines the gold. The trials strip away the superficial layers of self-reliance, pride, and false security that we accumulate in times of ease. They force us onto our knees, compelling us to reach beyond our own capacity and grasp the sustaining power of God in a way we never needed to before. The strength that emerges from enduring a long, dark night of the soul is a strength rooted in humility and absolute dependence on the Almighty, which is far more valuable than any temporary relief. Furthermore, this fertile ground of trial prepares us for future usefulness. The experiences that cause us the deepest pain often become the very tools God uses to minister to others. The person who has wrestled with addiction is uniquely qualified to counsel the addict. The one who has navigated the wilderness of grief can offer true, empathetic comfort to the heartbroken. Your current struggle is a curriculum, and the lessons learned in this hard, hidden place, patience, empathy, long-suffering, and unwavering trust, will be the foundation upon which your greatest ministry or purpose is built. Never mistake the darkness of the trial for the end of the story. Do not assume the pain is proof of God's displeasure. Instead, recognize that when you feel the pressure most intensely, you are in the middle of a process of profound internal restructuring. You are in the hands of the master gardener who is pruning away the unproductive branches and cultivating the deep root system that will allow you to stand firm and bear lasting fruit when the storms of life inevitably return. The breakthrough is happening in the breakdown. Trust the process of the seed. The fourth powerful anchor for your faith lies in the absolute certainty that when your situation appears static and hopeless, God is actively, powerfully, and invisibly working behind the scenes. This concept addresses the frustration of feeling helpless, the agony of watching time pass with no resolution in sight. What looks to you like a dead end is often, from God's perspective, the highly complex midpoint of a divine operation. You are looking at a single frame of a colossal movie, but God is directing the entire production, overseeing every actor, set change, and special effect necessary for the grand finale. When your eyes are blinded by tears and your human understanding fails to grasp a solution, it is precisely then that God's unseen hand is most diligently and effectively moving. The human mind seeks immediate linear cause and effect. I pray, therefore, a solution appears tomorrow. God's process, however, is often three-dimensional and involves countless simultaneous variables. He is not constrained by physical distance, human will, or political boundaries. While you are focusing on the immediate crisis, the impossible debt, the broken relationship, the locked door, he is moving pieces on a cosmic chessboard. Consider what this behind-the-scenes work entails. It's not simply a wish or a hope. It is active, sovereign manipulation of the universe for the good of his children. He is maneuvering people you don't even know, placing key individuals, a future employer, a necessary expert, a timely counselor, into the exact position they need to be to intersect with your life at the perfect moment. He is changing global circumstances, perhaps delaying a resolution until a certain law is passed or a specific technology is developed that makes your ultimate deliverance sustainable and meaningful. He is preparing hearts, softening the will of an adversary, convicting the conscience of someone who holds the key to your breakthrough, or preparing your own heart to receive the blessing in a way that truly glorifies him. This unseen activity ensures that the eventual outcome is not merely a temporary fix, but a complete, holistic fulfillment of his perfect will. If the breakthrough came too soon, you might miss a crucial character lesson or fail to meet a person who will be essential to your future destiny. The delay is not denial, it is calibration. God is weaving the seemingly chaotic threads of sorrow, doubt, and circumstance into a masterpiece of intentionality. Therefore, when the silence is loudest and the scene seems darkest, hold on to the conviction that this is the period of God's greatest labor. He is assembling a solution that is so comprehensive, so precisely timed, and so far-reaching that it will leave no doubt that it was His work and not a mere accident of fate. Trust the unseen process. The director of the universe is on the job. The alignment He is performing now will make your eventual victory undeniable and complete. One of the most profound and comforting truths of enduring faith is that our present suffering is not an isolated incident of misfortune, but a raw, vital material being used by the divine weaver. The pain, the confusion, and the tears that you experience today are not discarded. They are actively being woven into a tapestry of strength and witness that will ultimately serve a magnificent purpose beyond your own immediate relief. This perspective transforms suffering from a senseless ordeal into a sacred investment. When we are in the midst of a trial, our view is necessarily limited to the single dark thread of our current pain. We feel the sharp edges of the moment, the unfairness, the exhaustion, the loss. But God, the master weaver, sees the entire pattern. He knows that a finished tapestry requires not only the brilliant golden threads of success and joy, but also the dark, tightly pulled threads of hardship and sorrow. It is the darkness that provides the necessary contrast, allowing the brightness to truly shine and giving the whole piece texture, depth, and meaning. Your struggle, therefore, is not just for your own refinement. It is being prepared for public display as a powerful testament to God's faithfulness. The scars you acquire, the lessons you learn through grit and endurance, and the absolute dependence on grace you develop in the wilderness will become the most potent components of your future witness. The world doesn't need to hear a testimony from someone who has always had an easy life. They need to hear from someone who has been through the fire and smells not of smoke, but of hope and the sustaining power of God. The strength that is forged through adversity is a unique kind of strength. It is compassionate because it remembers the sting of the pain. It is humble because it knows it was saved by grace, not by personal effort. When you emerge from this trial, you will carry an authority and a depth of empathy that you could never have achieved in comfort. When you speak of God's ability to heal a broken heart or provide in a desolate time, your words will carry the weight of experience. They will resonate deeply with those who are currently where you once were, lost in the middle of their own dark night. Your story will become a lifeline, a tangible proof that God delivers. This process of weaving means that every tear is measured and every moment of perseverance is recorded. God is ensuring that nothing is wasted. The very thing the enemy intended to use to destroy your hope, your trial, will be the centerpiece of your story, the greatest tool you possess for encouraging the thousands you are meant to inspire. So, as you endure this season, try to shift your focus from the pain of the thread to the beauty of the emerging pattern. You are being prepared not just for survival, but for profound, effective ministry. Embrace the weaving. Your greatest witness is being created in the darkness. The final and ultimate assurance that must anchor your soul in the tempest is the immutable, life-altering truth that the victory is secured by grace, not by your effort. This point is crucial because in the midst of a prolonged struggle, the tendency is always to look inward, to measure the lack of success against your own perceived failures, weakness, or insufficient striving. We fall into the trap of believing that if we just pray harder, work longer, or demonstrate more perfect faith, the breakthrough will finally be earned. This self-focused perspective is exhausting and ultimately leads to despair, because human effort, no matter how sincere, can never secure a divine victory. The foundation of genuine Christian hope rests entirely on the accomplished work of Jesus Christ. The power that we claim, the strength we draw upon, and the resolution we seek are not dependent on our ability to maintain perfect spiritual equilibrium, but on the resurrection power of God that has already overcome the grave and all the darkness of this world. When the speech mentions that the same power that raised Christ from the dead is working in your situation right now, this is not flowery language. It is a declaration of eternal active reality. Consider the overwhelming nature of your current trial. It might be crushing, impossible, or terminal in human terms. Now compare that trial to the power required to defeat death itself, to shatter the bonds of sin, and to reconcile humanity to a holy God. Your biggest problem, when measured against the magnitude of the resurrection, is manageable. The victory you seek has already been purchased, sealed, and guaranteed by grace. This means you do not have to fight for the victory. You must simply fight from the victory that Christ already won. This understanding releases you from the crushing burden of striving and replaces it with the freedom of faithful endurance. You are not strong enough to solve your deepest problems, and God knows this. That is why He provides His inexhaustible, unmerited favor, His grace, as the source of your strength. Your responsibility is simply to maintain the connection, to keep believing, and to continue taking the next step in obedience, even when fear dictates otherwise. Your effort is important, but only as an expression of faith in the one who has already done the heavy lifting. Therefore, when the temptation comes to simply lay down your arms and surrender to the feeling of defeat, remember the ultimate source of your power. Your future is not determined by the limitations of your bank account, your medical prognosis, or your past mistakes. It is secured by the boundless, unfailing promise of a God whose greatest work was achieved when all human hope was lost. Lift up your head not because you are strong, but because the one who secures your victory is invincible. Declare by faith that the struggle is temporary, but the salvation and the promise delivered by grace are eternal.